السلام علیکم بچوں، پیارے ینگ جینٹلمین اینڈ لیڈیز، ہاؤ آر یو؟ کیسے ہیں آپ سب؟ اکٹھے ہو گئے؟ جی، آج میں آپ کو بڑی اسپیشل کہانی جو کہ پھر اڈیپٹ کی گئی ہے اور اس کو کیا ہے ادارہ تعلیم و آگاہی نے۔ یہ دیکھیے، یہ ان کا سلوگن ہے اور ایسی 28 بکس ہیں جن سے آپ بہت مزے لے لے کے پڑھ سکتے ہیں، بڑی آسانی سے خرید سکتے ہیں، اور ان کا ایک ہے، اور یہ بچوں کی لٹریسی اور لڑکیوں کی خاص طور پہ ایجوکیشن کے لیے بہت اسپیشل کام کرتے ہیں۔ تو جو یہ کہانی میں آپ کو سنا رہی ہوں، اس کی آتھر ہیں تمارا زیادات عبود جی، اور یہ ہیں بہت کام کرتی رہی ہیں بچوں کی تھیٹر کے لیے، رائٹنگ کے لیے، ڈائریکٹنگ، ٹیچنگ ڈراما ٹو چلڈرن، اور اس کی السٹریشن کی ہے سالہ رحال، جو کہ کہاں سے ہیں؟ جی عراق سے ہیں، اور بڑی اسپیشل اس کی ہیں۔ اور یہ ادارہ تعلیم و آگاہی نے بڑی خوبصورت ایفرٹ کیا، بڑی ہی خوبصورت اور مزے کی اور پر مقصد کتابیں بنائی ہیں۔ یہ دیکھیے جی، کوئی نام بتائے گا؟ جی یہ لکھا ہے کٹار مچھلی، اور دیکھیں جی کتنی پیاری سی پیلے رنگ کی بڑی سی چونچ والی سوڈ فش۔ سوڈ آپ جانتے ہیں تلوار کی طرح اس کا یہ ہے منہ، اور اس میں کانٹے بھی لگے ہوئے ہیں۔ تو آج ہم کٹار یعنی کہ سوڈ فش کی کہانی سنیں گے۔ جی، اب ایسی بات ہے کہ ایک سمندر میں کٹار مچھلی یعنی کہ سوڈ فش، ویل اور شارک، جو کہ آپ جانتے ہیں بڑی بڑی مچھلیاں ہیں، یہ ہیں جی، یہ ویل ہے اور یہ شارک ہے۔ چلیں آج ڈرائنگ بھی کیجیے گا اور کلرز دیکھیں آپ نے، اور سمندر میں دیکھیں اور بھی بہت کچھ ہے۔ وہ ایک دوسرے کے ساتھ کھیلتی تھی اور یہ بیچاری ان کو دیکھتی تھی، وہ ان کو ہر روز ایک ساتھ کھیلتے اور مزے کرتے ہوئے دیکھتی تھی۔ وہ ان کے ساتھ کھیلنے کے خواب دیکھتی تھی، لیکن اسے ان سے بات کرتے ہوئے شرم آتی تھی۔ چھوٹی سی تھی نا، اور اس کو پتا تھا کہ اس کی چونچ جو ہے، جو سوڈ فش کا نام ہے، جو اس کا ہے کانٹے تھا، وہ تو دوسروں کو زخمی بھی کر سکتا ہے، تکلیف بھی دے سکتا ہے۔ دیکھتے ہیں پھر کیا ہوا۔ ایک دن لیکن اس نے ہمت کی، بڑی ہمت کی، اور ان سے پوچھا کہ میں کیا آپ کے ساتھ کھیل سکتی ہوں؟ ویل اور شارک بہت اچھی مچھلیاں تھیں، اور ان کا موڈ بھی اچھا تھا کیونکہ وہ کھیل رہی تھی بال کے ساتھ، اور یہ سوڈ فش ڈرتے ڈرتے شرماتے شرماتے ان کے قریب آئی اور ان سے پوچھا کہ کیا میں آپ کے ساتھ کھیل سکتی ہوں؟ تو انہوں نے کہا اچھا۔ پھر انہوں نے دوسرے کی طرف دیکھا، سوچا، اور انہوں نے کہا ٹھیک ہے، ہم گیند کے ساتھ یعنی کہ بال کے ساتھ کھیلتے ہیں۔ یہ تھا جی ان کا بال، رائٹ، اور اس کے ساتھ کھیلتے ہیں۔ جیسے ہی پھینکنے کی باری، لیکن پھر انہوں نے آپس میں گیند کو پھینکنا شروع کیا، کیچ کھیلتے۔ تو جیسے ہی گیند بال پھینکنے کی باری کس کی آئی؟ سوڈ فش کی، کٹار مچھلی کی۔ تو کیا ہوا؟ ذرا بوجھو تو جانے، بوجھو تو جانے۔ نہیں، کیا ہوا؟ ذرا بوجھو۔ اچھا، یہ ہے، وہ چیخ کر رہی، نہیں۔ اس نے جب پکڑ کے بال کو پھینکنا چاہا تو اس کی سوڈ، اس کی چونچ اس کے آگے آ گئی، اور وہ اندر گھس گئی اور اس نے بال کو زخمی کر دیا اور اس کو بہت ہی برا حال کیا اس کا. یہ دیکھیں نا کتنا برا حال کیا اس کا, آپ دیکھ رہے ہیں. اور وہ بیچارہ بہت ضائع ہو گیا. اب وہ گیند یعنی کہ بال کے ساتھ تو نہیں کھیل رہے تھے اور بیچارہ کتنا شرمندہ ہو گئی, امبیرس ہو گئی. اس کے بعد اس نے ان سے جا کے کہا کہ آئی ایم سوری, مجھے معاف کر دیجیے, میرا کوئی ارادہ نہیں تھا آپ کے بال کو خراب کرنے کا. لیکن ویل اور شارک اچھی مچھلیاں تھیں. انہوں نے کہا فکر نہیں کرو سوٹ فش, کٹار مچھلی, کوئی بات نہیں. تب شارک نے مشورہ دیا کہ وہ آنکھ مچولی کھیلتے ہیں. اور آپ کو پتا ہے آنکھ مچولی کیسے کھیلتے ہیں؟ جی ذرا کوئی بتائے, کوئی میسج ہی نہیں کر رہا. ایسے کھیلتے ہیں جی, آنکھ پہ پٹی باندھ کے. تو تب شارک مشورہ دیا کہ وہ آنکھ مچولی کا کھیل کھیلتے ہیں. شارک نے کہا میں ویل کے ساتھ چھپ جاؤں گی اور تم ہمیں ڈھونڈنے کی کوشش کرنا. کٹار مچھلی فوراً تیار ہو گئی خوشی خوشی اور اس نے ایگری کر لیا. جی یہ شپ ہے اور آپ دیکھ رہے ہیں کہ وہ پیچھے پیچھے چھپ رہی ہیں. شپ یعنی کہ بڑے بحری سمندری جہاز شپ کے پیچھے. اور تم ہمیں ڈھونڈنے کی کوشش کرنا. جی کٹار مچھلی تیزی سے ڈوبے ہوئے بحری جہاز تک تیرتی ہوئی گئی جی, اور انہیں تلاش کرنے لگی. ڈھونڈو تو جانے, ڈھونڈو تو جانے. اور کٹار مچھلی جو تھی وہ جلدی سے چمنی سے اندر آ گئی, بڑی اسمارٹ تھی. یہ دیکھیں یہ کیا ہوا, دیکھیے تو صحیح. جیسے ہی وہ اندر آئی اس نے دیکھا ہی نہیں کہ وہاں ویل تھی اور وہ زخمی ہو گئی اس کی کٹار سے. وہ تکلیف سے کرا رہی ہے. او مائی گاڈ, بیچاری سوڈ فش, ہر بار کچھ نہ کچھ ہوتا ہے. اب وہ دونوں بڑی پریشان تھیں, ویل بھی اور شارک بھی. اور ادھر کٹار فش بھی بڑی شرمندہ تھی. پھر اس کو ایک آئیڈیا آیا. اس نے کہا ایسے کرتے ہیں کہ پھر پہلے اس نے معافی مانگی, سوری کہا اور کہا آؤ ہم امیوزمنٹ پارک چلتے ہیں, ہم تفریحی پارک چلتے ہیں, میں تمہارے لیے ٹکٹ خرید لوں گی کیونکہ میں نے تم لوگوں کو اتنا نقصان پہنچایا ہے. انہوں نے کہا اچھا چلو چلتے ہیں. اور یہ تھا ان کا امیوزمنٹ پارک. جی آپ کو نظر آیا؟ اچھا, اب ٹکٹ کی لائن میں کٹار مچھلی اندر جانے کے لیے کھیلنے کے لیے بہت بے چین اور بے قرار تھی. اس سے صبر نہیں ہو رہا تھا. ایک تو اسے یقین ہی نہیں آ رہا تھا کہ اس کی سہیلیاں بن گئی ہیں ویل اور شارک اور اس کے ساتھ کھیلنا چاہتی ہیں اور وہ جو کہتی ہے وہ مان جاتی ہے. لیکن پھر کیا ہوا, جب وہ لائن میں آئی تو جتنی مچھلیاں جو لائن میں تھیں ڈر کے مارے شور مچانے لگیں اور بھاگ گئی. ایک یہ بھاگ گئی, یہ بھاگ گئی لائن میں سے, کتار میں سے یہ آکٹوپس بھی بھاگ گیا, یہ جیلی فش بھی بھاگ گئی, دوسری فش بھی بھاگ گئی. اور یہ بیچاری حیرانی سے دیکھ رہی کہ میں کیا کروں, میں تو خود نہیں کسی کو نقصان پہنچاتی, کسی کو ہرٹ نہیں کرتی. ادھر جو انٹرنس یعنی کہ اندر جانے کا راستہ تھا, وہاں کی جو نگران تھیں, انچارج تھیں, وہ تھیں مس آکٹوپس. وہ وہاں آئیں, انہوں نے وہاں دیکھا کہ شور مچا ہوا ہے, لوگ مچھلیاں ادھر ادھر بھاگ رہی ہیں. تو انہوں نے جب یہ دیکھا کہ یہ سوٹ فش اور ویل اور اس کی شاخ کی وجہ سے ہو رہی ہیں، وہ بہت ناراض ہوئی اور انہوں نے فوراً نکال دیا کس کو؟ کٹار مچھلی، ویل اور اس کو۔ یہ دیکھیے، یہ آئی ہماری انچارج مس آکٹوپس، انٹرنس، اندر جانے کا راستہ۔ یہ جھولے لگے میں کوئی جھولا سلائیڈ گلائیڈ نہیں ٹرین رائڈ لے سکی، اور انہوں نے ان کو اور ان کو اور ان کو نکال باہر دیا۔ بیچاری سوٹ فش بہت پریشان ہوئی۔ اب تو ویل اور شارک بھی تھک گئی تھی اس کے ساتھ کھیلنے کی کوشش میں، جو کرتے تھے کوئی نہ کوئی مسئلہ ہو جاتا تھا۔ انہوں نے کہا، کٹار مچھلی، ہم آج کے بعد تمہارے ساتھ نہیں کھیلیں گے کیونکہ تمہاری وجہ سے ہم مشکل میں پڑ جاتی ہیں۔ یہ کہہ کے وہ چل پڑی اپنے گھر کی طرف، اور انہوں نے پیچھے مڑ کے بھی نہیں دیکھا۔ اور یہ کٹار مچھلی ڈس اپوائنٹڈ سی، اداس ہو گئی، لیکن وہ کچھ نہیں کہہ سکتی تھی کیونکہ وہ صحیح کہہ رہے تھے، اور وہ اس کو چھوڑ کے چلی گئی۔ سمندر کے کلرز دیکھیں کتنے پیارے ہیں۔ جی، اگلے دن جو ویل اور سمندری گھوڑا ہارس، سی ہارس، جی، اب جو ویل تھی وہ جو سی ہارس کے ساتھ برف پانی کھیلنے لگ گئی، جیسے آپ سب کھیلتے ہیں جی۔ اور پھر وہ کھیل میں وہ لپکی کس کو پکڑنے؟ سی ہارس کو، سمندری گھوڑے کو۔ تو کیا ہوا، جہاں سمندری گھوڑا تو چھوٹا تھا، وہ تیزی سے جہاز کی کھڑکی سے داخل ہوا، پیچھے ویل جو کہ بہت بڑی تھی وہ اس کھڑکی میں پھنس گئی۔ آئیے آپ کو دکھاتے ہیں، یہ ہے ہمارا سی شپ اور یہ ہماری ویل سی ہارس کو پکڑتے ہوئے پھنس گئی کھڑکی کے اندر۔ اور اب کیا کیا جائے؟ اور شارک بڑی پریشان تھی کیونکہ اس کی دوست پھنس گئی تھی۔ شارک نے بڑی کوشش کی مدد کرنے کی، لیکن کوئی فائدہ نہیں ہوا۔ اب دیکھتے ہیں کیا ہوا۔ پھر کیا ہوا، کٹار مچھلی وہاں سے ابھی گزر رہی تھی۔ اس نے دیکھا کہ اس کی سہیلیاں پریشانی میں تھیں۔ آپ سب ٹھیک ہیں؟ کٹار مچھلی وہاں سے ابھی گزر رہی تھی۔ اس نے دیکھا کہ اس کی سہیلیاں پریشانی میں تھیں۔ اس کٹار مچھلی سوٹ فش وہاں سے گزر رہی تھی۔ اس نے دیکھا ویل تو پھنسی ہوئی ہے ونڈو اور بڑی تکلیف میں ہے، اور شارک بیچاری ہیلپ لیس سی بیٹھی ہوئی ہے۔ اب کیا کیا، یہ شارک بیٹھی ہے، کوئی بھی اس کی ہیلپ نہیں کر پا رہا۔ تو اب کام آئی اس کی کٹار۔ اس نے دیکھا کہ اس کی فرینڈز پریشانی میں ہیں، تو اس نے اپنی سوٹ سے، اپنی کٹار سے کھڑکی کو کاٹ کے کاٹ کے اس کے ٹکڑے باہر پھینکے، اور وہ سوراخ ونڈو بہت بڑی ہو گئی اور ویل باہر نکل آئی۔ جی، یہ وہی کٹار مچھلی ہے جس سے ان کو نقصان پہنچتا تھا۔ اور یہاں دیکھیں، سی ہارس بھی اس کو شکریہ کہہ رہا ہے اور ویل بھی کہہ رہی ہے، اوہ سوٹ فش تمہارا شکریہ، تم نے ہمیں بچا لیا۔ شارک بھی اس کا شکریہ ادا، تھینک یو سوٹ فش، بہت شکریہ۔ اور ویل نے کہا، تم میرا تو سانس رک رہا تھا، تم نے تو مجھے بالکل بچا لیا۔ اب ان دونوں نے کہا کہ ہم جا رہے ہیں ایک پارٹی پہ، جیسے آپ برتھڈے پارٹی پہ جاتے ہیں جی، اور وہ ہے اسٹار فش، ستارہ مچھلی کی دعوت میں جا رہے ہیں، تم بھی ہمارے ساتھ چلو۔ کٹار مچھلی نے کہا، میں جانا نہیں چاہتی، میں ڈرتی ہوں کہ میری کٹار کی نوک سے کسی کو تکلیف نہ پہنچے۔ ہاں، ویل نے کہا، تم بات تو ٹھیک کہہ رہے ہو، لیکن ایسے ہے کٹار مچھلی اللہ نے جس کو بھی بنایا ہے کسی خاص مقصد سے بنایا۔ اگر تمہاری یہ کٹار نہ ہوتی تو میری جان کیسے بچتی، سی ہارس کی جان کیسے بچتی؟ تو ہر چیز کا فائدہ ہے، لیکن ہم سب کو ایک دوسرے کا خیال کرنا چاہیے، ایک دوسرے کا احساس کرنا چاہیے، اور ہم دوسروں کو تکلیف ہر کوئی پہنچا سکتا ہے، اور ہمیں کوشش کرنی چاہیے، ذرا احتیاط کرنی چاہیے۔ چاک نے جواب دیا، میری سہیلی، ہم سب دوسروں کو تکلیف پہنچا سکتے ہیں اگر ہم خیال نہ کریں۔ صرف تم سے نہیں، سب کو تکلیف پہنچ سکتی ہے، ہمارے سے بھی پہنچ سکتی ہے۔ تو کٹار مچھلی نے سوچا، اس نے کہا آپ ٹھیک کہہ رہی ہیں، ہوتا تو ایسے ہی ہے، ہم سب ایسے ہیں، فرق اللہ نے ہمیں ایسے بنایا ہے، اور ہمارا فرض ہے کہ ہم سب کا خیال رکھیں، دھیان رکھیں، اور ایک دوسرے کا خیال رکھیں، اور کسی کو تکلیف نہ پہنچے۔ اور وہ پھر پارٹی کی طرف چلی۔ یہ دیکھیے کیسی مزے کی پورکیوپائن اور کیٹرپلر کی طرح فش ہے، کوئی ایل ہے، یہ دیکھیں فراگ بھی ہے، آکٹوپس بھی ہے، یہ سب مل کے چلنے شروع ہوئے۔ رستے میں یہ سب مل رہے تھے ان کو، وہاں اس کو دیکھ کے بڑا مزہ آیا، لیکن پھر آکٹوپس کو ایک خیال آیا کہ کیا بات ہے، کیسے میں کوشش کروں تاکہ ہم سب مل کے رہیں اور ایک دوسرے کا خیال رکھیں۔ اس سے کیا فرق پڑتا ہے، کسی کے پاس کٹار ہے، کسی کے پاس دانت ہے، کوئی لمبا ہے، کوئی پیلا ہے، کوئی کالا ہے، کوئی چھوٹا ہے، کوئی بڑا ہے، تو ہمیں اس بات کا خیال رکھنا چاہیے۔ ہم سب اللہ کے بنائے ہوئے، ہم سب ایک جیسے ہیں، اور احتیاط سے تو کسی کو بھی کوئی تکلیف نہیں پہنچے گی، ٹھیک ہے نا؟ تو یہ دیکھیے اس نے اپنی سوٹ کو، یعنی کہ کٹار کے کانٹوں کو جو کہ کسی کو چبھ سکتے تھے، ان کو لپیٹا، تاکہ وہ جب پارٹی میں جائے، یہ فراگ ہو، یہ والی فش ہو، بلو فش ہو، آکٹوپس ہو، ویل ہو، یہ چھوٹی سی پنک فش ہو، بال ہو، یہ ایل ہو، جیلی فش ہو، سی ہارس ہو، دیکھیے سب ڈفرینٹ ہیں، لیکن سب مل جل کے رہتے ہیں، ایک دوسرے کا خیال رکھتے ہیں۔ تو اب وہ بھی پارٹی میں ان کے ساتھ کھیل سکتی تھی اور جا سکتی تھی، اور اس طرح ویل جو کہ اتنی بڑی تھی، شارک جو اتنی بڑی تھی، اور چھوٹی سی جو ہماری ان میں بہت دوستی ہو گئی۔ ہاں، یہ دیکھیے خوشی اب وہ ان کے ساتھ کھیلتی تھی، انجوائے کرتی تھی، لیکن خیال سے کہ کسی کو تکلیف نہ پہنچے۔ تو اب بتائیے آپ کو کیا نام ہے اس کا جی، ادارہ تعلیم آگاہی کی کیسی لگی کہانی؟ جی ضرور لکھ کے بھیجیے، میں آپ کو ضرور سناؤں گی۔ بہت اچھا اس میں میسج ہے، جیسے کہ بیلا نے لکھا بھی ہے، اٹس اے لولی اسٹوری آن ڈائیورسٹی۔ تھینک یو فار شیئرنگ دیز بکس، اور آپ لوگ دیر نہ کریں اور یہ بکس خریدیں، دے آر امیزنگ، آئی اسٹرانگلی ریکمینڈ دیم۔ جی اب ہاف منٹ کی بریک، اور پھر ہم شروع کریں گے آر انگلش اسٹوری ٹائم۔ Thank you. So off this goes and comes, children, agar aapke parents are sitting with you, I must tell them that this is an amazing set of stories by Dickens, and there is no age limitation. Children it is the best time to start with literature stories. I've told you Shakespeare stories, I've told you Charles Dickens stories. Have a try. You learn about problem solving, you learn about how to handle your emotions, you learn about good and bad, you learn about culture, you learn about history, you learn about future, and you learn about people, and lots of vocabulary and lots of imagination, isn't it? Yes, come one, come all, let's get started with our story, The Great Expectations. Yes, and it has been written by Charles Dickens, and who has adapted it? We have to tell you that because it has been an amazing effort, just like Adara Talim o Agahi's book. Adapted by Mary Sebag Montefiore, illustrated by Barry Ablett. Okay, let's see what happens in Great Expectations. Now, what are expectations? It's what you wish to happen, what you wish to acquire, what you see in the future when you expect that, oh, that person should do this or that should happen for you, right? Okay, now I'm set and we get started. Now, obviously, now we are taken to England hundreds of years back in a graveyard, in a churchyard. So the churchyard was damp and overgrown. I crouched among the nettles by the graves of my father, my mother, and my little brothers. He says it was cold. It was cold and it was wet, like when we have rain, the weather becomes damp and wet, and there were lots of thorny, spiky bushes that had grown because nobody was looking after the graveyard in the church. Okay, and he was crouching, literally sitting on his knees by his parents' and his little brother's graves. So he was an orphan. How sad. Let's see. Let's show you the picture. It will give you a very good idea. See, you can see he's got some flowers. He's crouching. He's on his knees. And he's visiting the graves of his father, mother, and brothers and sisters. Yes. And see the nettles all around? Yeah. The wind roared about me, and 20 miles away across the marsh the sea howled. So this churchyard was 20 miles from the sea. But there was a strong wind blowing, right? There was a very strong wind blowing. And the wind was roaring, right? And across the marsh, between the sea and the churchyard, the soil was mushy, wet, right? Mist and fog waved long, white fingers. He's turning the fog and the mist into a person that has fingers. So there was, as if the hands of mist and fog had engulfed, had covered this area through the church. And he was sitting and thinking, death has stolen everyone I love, I thought, and I began to cry naturally. He's missing his family. Stop that noise, you little devil! I'll cut your throat! Ah, ouch! A hand suddenly grabbed my shoulder. Now this guy is telling his story in first person. So So it's an autobiography, and I am reading it to you. A hand suddenly grabbed my shoulder, and turning, I saw a man burst through the wind as if he just appeared from the mist into view. A terrible, wild-haired man. There was a man, huge, evil-looking, and he just appeared like a devil, and his hair was wild, flying everywhere, and he looked terrible. His clothes were wet, torn, shabby, and smothered, covered with mud. Obviously, that means he had been walking through the marshy areas. His shoes were worn through. They were literally torn. His teeth chattered. Like this is chattering when we feel cold. Locked on his legs was a chain. That dragged and chain clanged as he shook me fiercely. This is the sound of the chain. So what do you think? He's crossed the marshy land. He's full of mud and clay, and his hair is going wild. He's quite evil looking. His clothes are all torn. His shoes are torn, right? And see, oh my God, he grabbed him by his shoulder. Oh my God, what an awful thing. And there were chains on his feet. Did I show you those? Can you see them? Okay, maybe. Yeah, there they are. So he is a prisoner who has run away, isn't it? Otherwise, why would he have chains? Yes. Don't hurt me, please, I begged in terror. What's your name, boy? He growled quick. Pip, sir. So our protagonist, our hero, little hero is Pip. Where do you live, Pip? He gripped my wrists. Okay. Down there, sir, I nodded past the church. With Joe, the blacksmith, and his wife. That's my sister, sir. Out. He was petrified, frightened to death. But he had to tell him. He's a nice little boy. Blacksmith, hey! He pushed me down onto a tombstone. Now, tombstone is the head plate of the grave. So that his eyes beamed down on mine, and mine looked helplessly up at us. Let's take a closer look. Is that what's happening? Yeah, it is. You know what a file is, Pip? Oh, what a file is. Now, file is something that with which if you keep rubbing it on a metallic surface or any surface, it starts cutting through. Yeah. Yes, sir. It's a saw. It's like a saw that goes through iron. He understood. So Pip obviously knew because his brother-in-law was a blacksmith. Oh, and it cuts. It's like a saw. It cuts through iron. Get me one first thing in the morning. Get me food too, or I'll rip out your heart. Don't think you're safe. I know where you live. I will, please. I stammered. Swear it. Swear it. Say, Lord, strike you dead if you don't. I said it, and he let go of me. Terrified, I ran home, fast turning just once to see him jump over the churchyard wall and disappear into the empty black marsh. Oh my goodness, into the empty black marsh. Oopsie daisy. Oh, he's running. Do you want me to show you how he's running away? Oh, that's the sea, 20 miles away. And that man must have walked that way. And this is his house. And he is running and running towards his house. He's petrified, he's frightened, he's afraid, he's scared. So he was terrified as he was running towards his home. My sister met me with a broomstick, which she whacked against my bottom, like that. Now that's not a very kind sister, though she is his older sister. Curse the boy, she yelled, late again, no supper for you. Oh, now, see, as she spoke, a loud bang exploded in my ears like a huge gun. What's that? I cried. Police, said my sister grimly. What are they doing? They are firing to warn of an escaped prisoner from the heart. And that's the prisoner. Oh, there she is. The sister, what an angry, sour, frowning lady she is. And there he is. First she hit him and on his bottom with her broom. And then he heard a shot as if something had exploded in his ears. It was so loud. And he was already afraid. And then he asked her, what is happening? And she said, oh, you silly goose, you will not get any dinner. And this sound is from the police. They're looking for an escaped convict, a prisoner. Oh, they are warning everybody. Oh. Please, what's the hulk? I asked. My sister shook me. Where will you end up if you don't stop asking questions? It's a prisoner ship for bad people, like murderers and robbers. So a hulk is a prisoner ship where bad people like robbers, thieves, murderers are kept. She pushed me with the end of the broomstick. Go up to bed now. And she sent him upstairs without any food. Now, isn't that mean? I didn't starve that night because kind Joe crept up secretly with some supper for me. But no, somebody cared for him, and that's his sister's husband, Joe the blacksmith. He was very kind. He quietly sneaked up and gave him some food secretly. But that night, Pip says, my dreams were haunted by the evil villain with clanking chains, and I kept walking terrified he'd come for me. At dawn, I went down, took Joe's file from his forge. Forge is the warehouse, the workshop, where the blacksmiths work with their iron and tools, and tin and lead. I knew he wouldn't mind once he understood. He knew Joe will understand, and stole a big pork pie and a bottle of brandy from the kitchen. So he stole food because he was utterly scared of that guy. My sister, unlike Joe, would be furious, angry when she discovered the theft, when she would discover that the pork pie and the weapon and the brandy was missing. And I was hoping, with my eyes shut, I prayed she would not guess that I was the thief of these things. I had stolen all this. The man was waiting for me by the churchyard. Bless you, boy, he grunted, seizing the stuff from my hands. He gulped the brandy like this. He must be very hungry, and tore sharp, snapping bites off the pie and quickly ate the pie. Like so, oh my God, like a dog. Then he grabbed the file and began sawing at his chain, his eyes shifting sideways as if expecting danger from me. Where do you think he was expecting danger from? Of course, the police were running after him. They were looking after him. I will not forget you, boy, he said. Remember me, Abel McWitch. That's my name. I won't forget you, sir. I said, I meant it. I knew he disturbed my thoughts forever. He had frightened me. He was still sewing as I ran back home over the marsh. Look at this. He's horrified, he's terrified, and watching him do there, he's emptied the bag, this able magwitch, and now he's drunk and he's eaten, and leftovers are here, and he's sewing and trying to cut off his chain. And he's telling him, I'll remember your favor, what you've done for me, right? And then Pip ran back to his home. Inside, I found Joe and my sister when he reached home with a visitor, Mr. Jaggers, the lawyer. He looked me up and down through his bushy eyebrows, bushy, big eyebrows, like a judge. I thought my sister had summoned him, called him, because I was a thief and I shook in my shoes. You are lucky, Pip, Joe put in, relieving my fears. Oopsie daisy, let's see what's happening. Now this, as he reached home, now there are new things happening in his life suddenly. First there was Abel Mackwich, the escaped convict, and now this judge, Mr. Jaggery, oh God, Jaggers. And there he is, and he's sizing him up. That's Joe, and that's her sister, that's his sister. And look at the way, look at the bushy eyebrows, can you see them? Look at his expression. And Pip is surprised. And Joe is telling him, don't worry. You should be grateful, my sister interrupted. Mr. Jagger says Miss Havisham wants you to visit her today. Now the angry sister, now she says, I am doing you a favor by letting me go. Now Miss Havisham was a rich lady in the village, and she had called for Pip. Excuse me, God bless me. Okay. Oh, I was stunned. Miss Havisham was a rich old woman who lived in a large house in our village and never saw anyone. My sister quickly washed my face and hair, kneading her hands into my scalp until I saw stars. But no matter how many questions I asked, he couldn't throw light on why Miss Havisham wanted me. So she didn't know why Miss Havisham wanted me. Now for the first time, she was washing him with her harsh, hard hands that he could see stars. Oh my God, she was rough on him, wasn't she? Okay, Mr. Jaggers and I arrived at Miss Havisham's gate. Behind was an overgrown courtyard. Mr. Jaggers, swelling with importance. I'll just show you. Jangle the bell. Jangle the bell. Oh, and a very pretty, but a very arrogant, proud, haughty girl arrived. You must be Pip, she said, looking at me. And then she turned to Mr. Jaggers. Do you want to see Miss Havisham? She asked. If he wants me to see me, Mr. Jaggers replied expectantly. He wanted to meet her because she wouldn't meet anybody. She doesn't, said the girl. Then she pulled me through the gate and closed it. Down, Mr. Jaggers, staring after her. So Mr. Jaggers was left staring at them at the gate, and this is the house. And this is this girl, the haughty girl, and she tells Mr. Jaggers that Mrs. Havisham doesn't want to see him. In we went. All the passages were dark. At last, we stopped outside a large oak door. Oh, there was a huge door. Go in, she ordered. After you, I said, more in shyness than politeness. Don't be ridiculous, she replied, walking in. I'm not going in. And, half afraid, I pushed open the door. and found myself in a large room, well lit with wax candles, but without a drop of daylight. Seated in a chair, her elbow on a table, her head resting on a hand, was the strangest lady I had ever seen. So this is the big oak door to her room. Look at the old clock. Everything is very old, the way it has been for many years. He's feeling shy and hesitant and a little afraid, nervous. And then he saw Miss Havisham. She was sitting. She was very unusual looking, very different. And she had her elbow on the table. Her hand was holding her chin. And she was sitting, holding a stick. And there were candles everywhere, but no daylight. She wore white clothes like a bride. She was dressed up as an old bride. A long white veil hung from her head. Even her hair was white. Then I realized that all the things I thought were white were faded and yellow. So they were all very old. The flowers in her hair were dead and withered, and the bride within the dress was old and withered too. So everything was withered, old, as if it's been there and not used. Her hair, her veil, her flowers, her dress, her skin, everything looked withered and old. The dining table. There was a dining table, and it seemed as if it was laid for a grand feast, but it was covered with cobwebs that draped over like curtains over the candlesticks, and towering over them was an ancient antique, like a black fungus, a wedding cake. I could see spiders running around, even mice. See, this was the situation of the dining table with candelabras. Can you see the cobweb like curtains draped all over? And this black, full of fungus, old cake lying there, a wedding cake. So it seemed Miss Havisham had tried to freeze her wedding day, wedding cake, her wedding dress, isn't it? Excuse me. And he could see mice and spiders scurrying around. Poor things, right? Look at me, she said, turning her sunken eyes to me. Are you afraid of a woman who has not seen the sun since before you were born? She says, look at me, what are you scared of? Are you scared of me? Of a woman who has not set eyes on the sun, or eyes or sunlight has not shone on her? Oh my God, look at this. Why are you scared? You don't have to. She is with her sunken eyes. She's looking at him and asking him. Intrigue. Mystery building up. Whoa, right? No, he said, I lied actually. Do you know what I touch here? She asked, laying one hand upon the other on her left side. Your heart, ma'am. She touched her chest. Broken, she said eagerly, smiling a strange smile that had a kind of boast in it. I'm tired, she went on. I want to see a child play, so play, just to amuse me, to make me happy. It will please me to see a child play. And she laughed at her sadness, but she had a broken heart. She told him, I don't know what to do. Are you sulking? Are you obstinate? She demanded. Are you a stubborn, frowning child? No, I stammered. Call Estella. She said, call me Stella. So Miss Havisham's first name was Estella. What a weird, strange character. To shout for the snooty girl was as bad as being told to play, right? Oh, no, it's not her. She said, call Estella. To shout for that snooty, proud, arrogant girl was as bad as being told to play. But I did. And she came down the dark corridor with a candle. Play, insisted Miss Havisham. Estella looked horrified. With this common clumsy boy? Now she looked down upon him because he was a village boy. Well, she murmured, you can break his heart. I couldn't believe my ears. It seemed such a strange and terrible thing to say. We then played cards until Estella was winning and winning. There she is. She's telling them to play. And then she tells Estella, you can break his heart. Like mine is broken. And they kept playing cards. And Estella made sure that she won. Come here, ordered Miss Havisham, beckoning me over. Come here. Do you think she's pretty? She asked in a whisper. Yes, I whispered back. But she's very insulting. She's very rude. Ha! I think she looked pleased. Go now, Pip. Come again next week. That's it. What a weird thing. Estella led me back to the gate. Just as I was leaving, she smiled at me, tilting her face up to mine. So you think I'm pretty? Very pretty, I said. Am I still insulting? She asked softly. Not as much as when I ride, I replied. No, she responded and slapped my face with all her strength, she said. What do you think of me now? You foul little monster. I refused to answer. Imagine, she's slapping him with all her strength and might across his face. Now, isn't that mean? Oopsie daisy, huh? Okay, let's see what happens. I think it's a long story for sure. So I will cut it into 2 parts. Yes, for sure. It goes on and on and on and on. Okay, back home my sister and Joe were curious, but I didn't feel like telling them anything. You behave properly and she might leave you her fortune, said my sister. She was greedy. Pip doesn't need a fortune. He's got a good home here, Joe smiled. He'll be a blacksmith, just like me. I sighed. I didn't want to be a blacksmith like Joe. I wanted to be rich so that Estella wouldn't despise me. Now he has a crush on her. He likes her. He wants to impress her. He knew she looked down upon him because she insulted him because he was poor. Now, is that the right attitude? Should we have this attitude with people? Week after week, year after year, I went to Miss Havisham's house to play with Estella. So it became his routine, and he was to go back to her house and play with Estella. Nothing ever changed. Wearing her crumbling bright clothes, Miss Havisham, excuse me, gosh, quite a few sneezes I'm getting. Miss Havisham stayed indoors watching over us with a strange smile. At last the time came when Joe said I was old enough to start work as his apprentice. Oh, my dream of being a rich gentleman was at an end. My sister had died suddenly of a fever. Oh, he lost his sister also, no matter how unkind she was. I felt I could not leave Joe. Now he was on his own and he had always been kind to me. I'd have to be a workman just like him, with thick boots and coarse hands. Estella would never look at me now. I thought I would be too common for her. I won't be able to come anymore, I told Miss Havisham on my next visit. I have to start work. Stella is also leaving me, Miss Havisham told me. She's going to France to finish her education. She must learn to be a grand lady. Let's see what happens. Stella was prettier than ever and still proud, but I felt she wore her pride like a veil, preventing the real Stella from shining through. So it seemed she was pretending to be rude and proud and arrogant, and she was actually hiding her inner person. I often caught glimpses of her sweetness. I had seen her being sweet, sometimes sad, and that made me wish I could rescue her from her frozen tower that she was trying to live in, and she had erected around her, pretending to be cold and hard and mean, but inside she was sad. I am what Miss Havisham has made me, she confided one day. I can't help being cold and hard. She never taught me to love. I wish I could. I had wanted to tell her that I loved her. My mind formed the words that were on the brink of my lips. Couldn't she feel it? Now he wants to tell her. He wants to share his feelings for her. And couldn't she love me too? But before I could speak, she had said quickly, as if she knew what I was thinking, "It's too late, Pip. I can't change myself now." She had looked so unhappy that my heart felt wrenched in sympathy. Now, on hearing Miss Havisham's words, my dream that we might one day be friends and equals had evaporated. Oh, now because Stella was going to get educated, Stella would be a grand lady forever beyond my reach. I hope Stella will be very happy, I told Miss Havisham, and you too. She said in disgust. The next day, she's very unhappy, Miss Havisham. The lawyer, Mr. Jaggers, came unexpectedly to her house again. You are fortunate, Pip, he exclaimed. You are a man of great expectations. Now you have great expectations, great future ahead of you, great things in store for you. What do you mean? I guess she's grown up, and there is Mr. Jaggers again. Tell him that he is lucky. And he's surprised. How can that be? I've been asked to tell you, he continued pompously, he was a very pompous, proud man, that you now have a very large amount of money. Further, he thrust out a restraining hand to stop my torrent of questions. He told Pip that he had come into a large fortune, and then obviously Pip is a very curious, intelligent boy. He wanted to ask questions, but the pompous Mr. Jaggers stopped him with a gesture of his hands and said, "Shh. The person who has given you the money wants you to leave home and come to London to learn how to be a gentleman. Is that true?" His dreams are coming true. You know, if you dream and you work hard towards it and you pray for it and you are honest and sincere, things happen. Remember that always. He seemed to expand with each piece of news, as if he was doing me a favor, giving me all that. Furthermore, he concluded, the name of this person is to remain a profound, deep secret until the person chooses to reveal it. Joe and I looked at each other, completely amazed. It must be Miss Havisham, I thought. She's given me her fortune. If you have the slightest suspicion whom you think it might be, you are to keep your thoughts to yourself, said Mr. Jaggers, as if guessing my mind. That is one condition of the gift of the fortune. So you're going to London, Pip? Joe faltered. You have been my best friend and now you're going to be a grand gentleman. I am very glad for you. Now, Pip was a nice gentleman. I was so excited. I could not think about anything else. It never occurred to me that I might miss Joe. And I ignored the thought that Joe, now a lonely widower, might miss me. You need proper clothes before you come, advised Mr. Jaggers, and they should not be the clothes of a working man. Go to the best tailor in town. Here's 20 guineas to begin with. And here's my card. Come to my London house in a week's time. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I replied, dreaming already of an elegant carriage and thoroughbred horses to carry me in style to my new life. So he forgot all about Joe and everything around his village life. He couldn't wait to go. Then what happened was, I visited Mr. Trapp, the tailor. I need a suit of fashionable clothes, I announced. I can pay with cash. Don't hurt me by mentioning money, purred Mr. Trapp, flourishing rolls of fine cloth for my inspection. So this is the tailor and he's showing me rolls of cloth. I suddenly had a pleasant vision of my future. So this is what it was like to be rich. People would be eager to please me. Money makes the mayor go. A week later, I went to Mr. Jaggers in London, and I will leave you here wondering what's going to happen. How does Mr. Jaggers live, and what's going to happen? Where is he going to study? Let's see. Whether he's going to study or what is he going to do with his life? Does he become a rich gentleman? Does he succeed? Do his dreams come true? So I'll tell you that story next Sunday. Yeah, because our story hour is over. Did you enjoy yourselves? So, was it hard to understand Charles Dickens? See? When you grow up, you can read the original versions, but you would already know the story and what hardships this boy went through. But he had dreams, right? So he did a kind act, he helped, and he's being rewarded. We're always rewarded for good deeds. What goes around comes around. Call your friends, your cousins, and everybody. Don't forget my stories at 5:30 p.m. on Saturdays with Scary Yummy, and on Facebook at Stories with Uzma Channel, on Facebook on Saturdays at 11:30. And if you guys need great English and literature tuitions, I am here for you. I'm the person to call and contact. Tell your parents from grade 5 to grade 11. Guaranteed results, I promise you. I'll try my best. Khudafez.